Okay, so imagine this. You get a matching tattoo with a friend, something you think is just a symbol of your bond. But what if that simple design, that little piece of ink, wasn't a choice? What if it was a contract with something not from our world? Well, that's exactly the terrifying story we're diving into today.
Everything kicks off with this one, absolutely chilling text message. Imagine getting this from your friend just moments after asking about the tattoo you both share. For our main character, Hor, this is the exact moment a fun memory twists into a terrifying threat.
So you have to be asking, how did things get so dark, so fast? Well, it all started out so innocently. Hor and her friend Zain got these matching 1111 tattoos. And for her, it was just a spontaneous, fun thing to do. She had absolutely no idea it was the first step into a living nightmare.
Later, back in her room, she's looking at the tattoo and she gets this weird, uneasy feeling. It just looks different, more menacing somehow. So she does what any of us would do, right? She snaps a picture, sends it over to Zain, and playfully asks, "Hey, so what's the deal with 1111 anyway? Why this number?" And that question, it's the last normal moment she's going to have for a long time.
Because that simple question gets a terrifying answer. This is the turning point, the exact moment Hor finds out that the ink on her skin isn't a symbol of friendship at all. It's a brand.
Zain's reply completely shatters her reality. He tells her it's not just a tattoo, it's a covenant. In the original text, the word is ahed. And we're not talking about a simple promise here. This is a binding, supernatural pact. The tattoo is a mark that means she's been chosen, and she's now under control.
And then this text lands, making it all deeply, horrifyingly personal. Can you just imagine the chill running down your spine? Realizing this wasn't random. What she thought was a shared memory was actually a calculated trap. He chose her. She was the target all along.
Zain promises that when the clock hits 11:11 that night, she'll finally get it. And just like that, a horrifying countdown begins. Her entire reality starts to warp and unravel around her.
And the terror just ramps up minute by minute. First, this unnatural cold just floods the room. A few minutes later, she glances in the mirror and sees the impossible. Her own reflection is smiling back at her, but it's a twisted, demonic grin. Then the tattoo starts to burn, to physically hurt. Soon after, she hears it, whispers, calling her name from nowhere. Then footsteps right outside her door. And finally, a violent, bone-shaking banging on the door. Every single event is an attack, each one more terrifying than the last. Now, at the very center of all this is the tattoo itself. It is not just ink anymore. It starts to give off this eerie, unnatural glow. Then, it starts to pulse, like a tiny heart is beating right under her skin. And then it gets worse. It starts bleeding real blood, and the blood forms these weird magical symbols, sigils, all around the numbers. The mark is activating. As she's trying to deal with the pain and the sheer terror of it all, another text message from Zain comes through, and it is just dripping with menace. The pain is just a prelude, it says. When the clock strikes 11:11, you will know why I chose you. The final minutes are ticking down, and the worst is definitely yet to come. And then, it happens. The clock strikes 11:11. The countdown is over. The confrontation is here. As the clock hits the exact moment, the mirror in her room doesn't just crack, it explodes with this deafening bang. But the shards of glass don't fall. No, they freeze right there in midair, forming this glittering, razor-sharp cage all around her. The barrier between her world and something else has just been shattered. And out of that shattered mirror steps an entity. It's wearing Zain's face, but it's twisted. One side looks normal, but the other half is horribly scarred, like it's been burned. And its eyes, they're not human. They're just black voids with these swirling red vortexes inside. As this thing steps into her room, the blood from her tattoo streams through the air and is absorbed right into its chest, like it's fueling it. The creature speaks with Zain's voice, but it's cold, it's triumphant, and it has zero humanity left in it. It looks right at her, trapped and terrified, and it declares, "I made you a promise, Hor, and I have fulfilled it. Now, you will be mine." The covenant is being collected.
But this is not where Hor's story ends. Even though she's paralyzed with fear, something else starts to rise up inside her, pure defiance. She is about to do something incredible.
Her voice is shaky, but she finds the strength to speak her truth. She looks that monster right in its void-like eyes, and she rejects the whole deal. She rejects its ownership of her. "I will not be yours," she says. Not to a tattoo, not to a spirit, not to a covenant.
And she doesn't just say it, she acts. Her eyes dart to one of those sharp, floating mirror shards, and she snatches it out of the air. The entity screams, warning her to stop, but she doesn't listen. She presses that shard of glass right into the bleeding tattoo on her hand, and she slices through the sigils, physically severing the magical link. The pain is just unimaginable, like fire and ice at the same time. But as she cuts, the entity itself cries out in pain. It's weakening. The covenant is being broken.
And in that one single defiant act, everything changes. She is no longer the victim bound by some supernatural deal. She becomes a survivor, the one who fought back, the one who broke the pact. She literally turns her fear into strength and takes back her own life.
With the connection severed, the entity just dissolves into nothing. The cage of glass clatters to the floor and the room is quiet again. Then on her phone, one last message from Zain's number pops up. It's just a single word with a question mark. Sorry? I mean, what does that even mean? It's this haunting, ambiguous ending that makes you wonder who or what the real Zain ever was.
And the tattoo, the bleeding stops, the angry glow fades. All that's left isn't a curse anymore. It's a scar. The numbers 1111 are now traced in these fine white lines on her skin. It's a permanent reminder, not of her terror, but of her victory.
And that really leaves us with this final, powerful question to think about. The story closes with Hor looking at her scar, not with fear, but as proof of her will to live. It kind of makes you think about the marks our own struggles leave on us and how we have the choice to see them not as signs of damage, but as symbols of our strength, of our resilience.